Yo, what's going on people? It's your boy Huncho back at you again with another video. And so today I thought we'd go over two separate court cases that have recently wrapped up. The details surrounding the cases are relatively small, more than likely due to the fact that both men had pled guilty. But honestly, I feel like more light needs to be shed on both of these cases, hence why I'm making this video. The first is coming out of London, and recently 19-year-old Desmon Brooks has been jailed over an incident that went down on the 20th of October 2020. At around 10:50 AM on that autumn morning, emergency services were called to reports of a stabbing just outside of Harrow-on-the-Hill Underground Station. When they arrived, they found a 16-year-old girl suffering from a stab injury to the leg, and she was rushed to hospital where her injuries were described as non-life-threatening. After receiving 6 stitches at the hospital, she would go on to make a full recovery. Eventually, Desmond would go on to be charged with causing grievous bodily harm and racially aggravated common assault, to which he pled guilty to. In court, details would emerge that Desmond had actually approached the girl who was with her male friend and asked for her number and Snapchat username. When the pair told him to leave them alone, he became abusive and threatened to hurt them. The pair then walked into the underground station, and Desmond soon followed, where he started to shout abuse at the male friend. When the male friend turned to confront him, Desmond punched him in the face. It was then the girl began to wrestle with Desmond, and he produced a knife, stabbed her in the thigh, and then fled the scene. After a recent court hearing, Desmond was jailed to 5 years and 2 months in prison. Now look, if you get rejected by a girl who clearly doesn't want you to be there talking to her, just keep it moving because she clearly feels uncomfortable. We have to remember as well that this is a child, 16 years old, and at the end of the day, this man has gone on to stab her just because she didn't want to hand over the phone number or Snapchat username. Because understandably, as a child, why would you hand over your Snapchat username and number to a grown man? This doesn't really make sense to me. But moving forward, I am hoping that the girl does get the support that she needs, because this situation more than likely has affected her. Only 16 years old, being approached by a man and then going on to be stabbed by him just because you didn't hand over your contact details. But moving on to our next court case, and this one's a bit of a crazy one because a man has recently been jailed for stabbing an ex-friend over a 5-year sausage roll feud. Yes, you heard that right, a sausage roll feud. In a recent sentencing hearing, the court heard how 36-year-old Matthew Evans and a former friend of his had bad blood between them, which started off when they used to work together. You see, Matthew had accused this former friend of his of eating a sausage roll that belonged to him. Apparently, once the two went their separate ways, they didn't leave on the best of terms. At the end of 2020, the feud was reignited when they unexpectedly bumped into each other for the first time in years. This chance meeting ended up in Matthew bringing up the sausage roll, which sparked a fight, resulting in Matthew picking up a hammer. He swung the hammer around his head and accidentally hit his own girlfriend. The former friend then grabbed the hammer off Matthew and hit him over the head with it before running off. He himself sustained a bruise to the stomach and ribs during the incident, but it was never reported to the police. A few weeks later, on the morning of the 5th of January 2021, Matthew's ex-friend had been at a friend's house in Hemel Hempstead when he heard someone entering the door. He went to see who it was and was greeted by Matthew, who in a calm voice said, "Remember me, you cunt." He then proceeds to attack his old friend turned enemy, hitting him in the face and chest before stabbing him in the chest and cutting his face with the knife. Matthew then flees the scene, but bizarrely covered in blood, he starts to knock on strangers' doors and asks them to give him a lift away from the area. After being turned away from the first house, he pushes his way into a second house and told the woman who lived there that he had just stabbed someone down the road, telling her he had done it in retaliation as the person had attacked him and his girlfriend previously. He also told the woman he had wrapped the knife in tape in an attempt to make sure it didn't go too deep. After telling her this short story, he demanded a change of clothes and a cab before leaving the terrified woman's home. Meanwhile, emergency services arrive at the scene of the stabbing and the victim is rushed to hospital with a wound to the right side of his chest and a laceration near to his right eye. In court, it was heard that Matthew had suffered with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of his military service and had substance abuse issues. During the incident, he was under the influence of alcohol and cocaine. After pleading guilty to wounding with intent and possession of an offensive weapon in a public place, he was handed a 4-year and 10-month prison sentence. But this story just goes to show you how irrational you can act whilst under the influence of drugs and alcohol. We've been over stories like this before, where something so little has happened, maybe a sly comment or something like that, and then it turns into something bigger, and today's story mirrors exactly that. Hadn't Matthew been under the influence, then maybe he wouldn't have gone to see his former friend, because it seems to me he got really high and then went to the house and was set on stabbing him. But let me know what you guys think of this down in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.